This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Let's take a break from the regular grit and grind of the regular season and talk about one of the scenarios that we haven't really done much talking about, despite it being one of the most dominant factors of the season. And that is injuries, right? It's been no doubt. The Browns team that is playing right now is completely different from the Browns team that entered the season to start the year, despite the fact that they've been able to maintain a pretty good record throughout most of these games. The question still lingers in your head. Man, what if nobody got hurt, or we just didn't sustain as many major injuries? What would this team look like? Well, that's what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss what if the Browns didn't get injured so much in 2023 and what that would look like for this team this year and where they would be relative to where everybody else in the AFC is. So we're going to talk about that. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, DraftKings. The countdown to Christmas is here, and I've teamed up with DraftKings to bring a gift to new customers that will certainly put you in the holiday spirit. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Put some extra jingle in your pocket by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using my promo code WORSTTAKE. If you've already signed up for DraftKings, you can get a no sweat bet, get a bonus bet back if your same game parlay / same game parlay X bet doesn't hit. Max reward limits apply. If you're a fan of multiple teams and you want to bet on them all, combine multiple bets together for a shot at an even bigger payout. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, not to worry, you can still join all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers who use promo code WORSTTAKE and bet $5 will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code WORSTTAKE only at DraftKings Sportsbook. So what if, right? I think the Browns played one game, maybe 3 quarters. Shockingly enough, they played 3 quarters of football this year with all of their starters. And that's not even true because Juan Thornhill didn't even play in the opening contest for the Browns against the Bengals. So the Browns have played no games, no quarters of the season with their projected starting lineup. Like Juan Thornhill was out the first game. Then in the first game, you lose Jack Conklin. I believe you get Juan Thornhill back. And if you want to count it, maybe a quarter. Like if you don't count Jack Conklin as a starter because DeJuan Jones has been so good in replacement, you could say that the Browns have probably played a healthy quarter of football. Ironically enough, it might have been their worst quarter of football that they played this season because it was the first quarter in Pittsburgh, and we know that was pretty bad for this Browns team, that first quarter. But that was the one time, the one quarter, you played 1 quarter of football this year with all of your planned starters or somebody who's in there that's starting level. Right. That's been the one healthy quarter of football. Ironically, one of your worst quarters of football. But it's been one of the healthiest quarter of football that you've had this season. Since then, Nick Chubb has gone down. We've already talked about Jack Conklin comes down. The week after that versus Tennessee, Deshaun Watson goes down for a period of time. Then you play Baltimore, San Francisco, Indy, and Seattle, and you have relatively small injuries in that span, like nothing too crazy. But then you get the big one, right? You play Arizona. Well, not the big one yet. You play Arizona. You feel good. We're finally healthy. Okay. Deshaun practices that week. You play Baltimore. You beat them. You're like, all right, we get this clean injury report on Wednesday, and Deshaun Watson's out for the year. Okay. Deshaun Watson's out for the year. Injuries pile up. Things continue to happen. We know what happened with this Browns team. If there's any injuries that happened before I was able to record this video or got announced before I was able to record this video, feel free to add them in. Doesn't really change, right? So we know what injuries have done to the season, even though the Browns have been able to maintain a good record. What I want to do is go through the schedule and realistically predict what the Browns' record could have been if there were no injuries and where they would sit in the AFC, because it's going to give us not only a good picture of how good this team is for the rest of the year, but also a good picture of how good this team can be for next year, given that they're going to be able to return a solid crop of these players, right? Like maybe you lose Grant Delpit, but the way things are lining up, you might be able to keep him and give him your one extension, and everybody else are relatively not high contract guys, like not guys that are who are going to get a ton of money in free agency. So you're going to have a decent chance to keep them as well. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pull up this schedule and we're going to talk about the Browns' what if scenario, because I do find it fascinating, this what if scenario with the Cleveland Browns. All right. So week one, we can all agree goes the same. They had a pretty relatively healthy roster. They beat the Bengals 24-3. We know Browns win that one. Cool. Right. That's good. Week two at Pittsburgh. Now, the Browns ended up losing this one 22-6. They lose Nick Chubb in the first quarter. I strongly believe that the Browns don't lose this game if Nick Chubb doesn't get hurt for the year. If Nick Chubb plays that game and finishes that game, I think the Browns probably walk away from that one with a double-digit victory. And because I just think you're putting less on Deshaun, you're putting less on the offense in total. I think you're going to be able to hold on to the ball more, because I believe like the backup running backs came in, had 2 fumbles in that game. I really do believe if Nick Chubb plays, you probably win that game. Tennessee, you clearly win regardless of who played. That Baltimore game would be a lot more interesting week 4, but since you lost it by so many points, I would have to say that would be a loss. So after 4 weeks, I think the Browns would have been 3-1 instead of the 2-2 that they sat in. Week 6 versus the 49ers. This is one that I find interesting because I feel like the 49ers lost to us in part because they overlooked us because of all the injuries. I don't know if the 49ers overlook a 3-1 team, but given that they played bad football after that, I think the Browns win. So they're at 4-1 and we're feeling really good, right? The Indianapolis Colts game, I think you probably win that one. You're at 5-1. The Seattle Seahawks game, I think you probably win that one. You know, you almost got it with PJ, just a couple turnovers. I think you probably get that one. You were running the ball super well. I imagine Nick Chubb would have been really good in that game. So what, you're at 7-1. You beat the Cardinals 8-1. They beat the Ravens with Deshaun. No Nick Chubb. I would imagine with Nick Chubb, it doesn't change things. They're able to win that game as well. So we're talking about a team that's 9-1. You beat the Steelers. I think you beat them pretty easily if you have everybody healthy. 10-1. And then this Broncos game, I'm going to chalk this one up to a weird loss. Like you just get one of those and then you're at week 12 and you're what? 9-2? Yeah, 11 games. You're at 9-2. So my bad. I added an extra win there when I was counting. So you'd be at 9-2 here right now. You're at 7-4. So these injuries so far have cost you about a game. Now, again, this video might come out a little bit later than when I've recorded it. So add whatever Browns wins or losses that are going to be there in order to update it. But that's about a 2-game difference. All of those injuries have made a difference in this one. Now, going forward, I really think the Browns would have nothing to worry about against LA. Jacksonville would be a good game, and that could go either way. The Bears, I think they would beat them pretty handedly. The Texans, I think the Browns would be able to beat the Texans if they were at full health. The Jets, I think the Browns would be able to beat them Thursday night at home. And then the Bengals without Joe Burrow, You know, I mean, so we're talking about a team that could have potentially been like a 3-win, 1 seed AFC favorite in the playoffs, and in a year where the Chiefs are down, in a year where there's no real dominant team in the AFC, just a lot of good teams. It could have been a nice opportunity, but the playoffs are not guaranteed. And I'm not going to say you're just going to automatically beat Pat Mahomes, right? Because there were a couple of things that weren't going super right with the team, even before all of the injuries, right? Deshaun Watson and the offense still under expectation. Maybe that changes with Nick Chubb out there, but I don't know how much that changes the passing game stuff, because the passing game just did not look like it was able to get his feet set. Now, maybe that changes if Deshaun's able to put weeks of quarterback play together. But the truth about the Browns up until this point, again, this video was recorded November 27th, but the truth about this Browns team has been just what they went 1, 2, 3 games with Deshaun to start the season. He gets hurt. Then they go 1, 2, they go 1 game with DTR. He gets pulled at the bye week. Then they go 3 games with PJ Walker, 2 where he starts, 1 where he comes in relief. But you get 3 weeks with PJ, and then Deshaun comes back, and you get 2 games with Deshaun, and then DTR has to play, and you get 2 games with him. He gets hurt. We'll see if he plays the week after that. But it's just been a constant shuffling of the quarterback position, right? Maybe Joe Flacco comes in there at some point, but it's been a constant shuffling of the quarterback position. And the one thing I think has hurt this team probably the most, even more than the Nick Chubb injury or any other injury that has happened this year, has been the constant shuffling of the quarterback position due to factors that really just have nothing to do with the quarterback itself. It's just injuries, right? Like Deshaun gets injured, DTR gets injured. You're down to PJ Walker. Like, it's just a constant shuffling of the quarterback position. I think the defense is good enough to take most hits. If an offense is having a really good day and they need the Browns offense to put up 30 points to win, that's going to be tough. But let's be honest, we didn't feel great about that even when Deshaun was in there, right? Like, about the Browns' ability to win a shootout. So I don't know if that part changes, right? And that's why I don't think that the Browns probably win this Denver game, because of how that game folded out. And I don't think the Browns win the Baltimore game because of how that game folded out. Because even though we know that Deshaun is much better than any other option, the Browns have a quarterback right now, we also are not at all at a point with him to where we could say he's back to 2020 or he's elite or anything like that. Like, we think he's good. We know he's a good starting quarterback when he plays. It makes a huge difference for this team, the point differential and all that, but it hasn't been an elite level quarterback play that we've seen consistently from him. So it's not like I could just say that would be the case, but if they just had consistent, less turnover football over this stretch, they probably win a couple of those games that they drop. Now, the fortunate thing is that you've gotten real fortunate in this season, even without these injuries, because yes, the Browns are 7-4, but they've gotten fortunate, right? They got fortunate against the 49ers. They got some breaks against Pittsburgh. They got some breaks against Indy. They got some breaks that went their way for a lot of games all season. So it's not a guarantee that they would just win every game that they won, lose every game that they lost. But I do think that if the Browns don't sustain these injuries early on, even if the record's 7-4, like the Browns record is right now, they're a much different 7-4 team than they are right now. Right now, the Browns are a 7-4 team that are really just trying to duct tape themselves together to put together a playoff run, hopefully upset somebody, and see where it goes from there. But that's where the Browns are, or that's where they are at the time of recording this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. You have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.